if you're looking to expand your workshop and get a new tool, you're maybe looking at getting a table saw. Well, let me tell you why you should or shouldn't buy this table saw, in my opinion. So let's crack on with the cons and we'll get on to the pros at the end. Con number one, the noise of this table saw. It is unbelievably loud. I know table saws are loud in general, but this one, in my opinion, is just way too loud. You can get quieter models out there, so if you're living in a HOA, you've got small kids, neighbours got kids, you may want to look at getting a quieter model if you're going to be working at night. Next problem with this table saw is dust. It just spits dust everywhere. You've got a shop vac hooked up, still just spits dust everywhere. It gets clogged really easily with pieces that are slightly larger going down into the dust ports. Quite small dust ports, like 2.5 inches, because you can hook your shop vac up to that. So that's something to bear in mind, that you may just need to open up your garage door and cut the pieces of wood out into your drive or whatever you may have. So when getting this machine, I thought about just getting the version that sits on the floor, but I thought, you know what, let's get the stand. So I was looking at the 8.5 inch versus this 10 inch, and I thought, you know what, I want to get the slightly larger blade, and that comes with this stand. Well, the stand is awful. I found it just is wobbly, it shakes all over the place. I'm going to need to build something a little bit more permanent to hold this table saw if I'm going to keep it. But I find it's just, no matter what, I know my garage floor isn't level, but just this, you know, you've got something spinning around at what, 5,000 RPM. Yeah, I want something a little bit more stable than that, so something to bear in mind. So the next issue is something that's quite critical to a table saw, but I haven't had too many issues with it as of yet, and it comes down to this fence and just the squareness of the fence. Really, it's not very good. So let's see if I can show you what I mean. So see if you can see that gap right in there. So I can't say this has caused me too many issues as of yet. I've been able to joint boards together, but what I've not tried doing is different thicknesses of boards I have to cut to the same width. Now that could cause issues there if the larger board is hitting further up on the fence versus the thinner board is hitting a little bit lower down on the fence. Now there will be a difference there. Not a very big difference. That's probably about, what, a 16th of an inch there from top to bottom. So that's a little bit concerning when you're trying to make finer cuts or trying to get something down to the correct width, maybe when you're jointing boards. The next thing that I don't like about this table saw is the adjustment on the fence. There's no rack and pinion to move it left and right, so you can't make fine adjustments. You kind of have to tap it or just move it. So what I normally do is use my measuring tape and measure from this side of the blade to the fence, and then that is my measurement for how large the cut's going to be. But this table, it does keep it quite square actually, as long as you don't do something like this. But adjustments are not very good, and this scale is not very accurate. So I don't know if this is a major con, but the ability to build sleds, see the little indents here and then here, it can cause issues if you're trying to build a sled, say a cross-cut sled, or maybe like a tendon jig you want to build to run in this channel here. It's not a huge issue, but not being able to use this to create a crosscut sled or something like that, it could impede you going forward. You may not be able to add that crosscut sled to your repertoire of tools or jigs that you have, so it could hold you back a little bit. This table saw might not allow you enough growth going forward. If you are new to woodworking or just looking to expand your workshop, you may not have a huge budget, and that's where this Ryobi table saw does come in to its own. Really, it's only $180, or that's what I paid for it at the time a few months back, and you can get cheaper options out there, then you can get more expensive options out there. It all comes down to budget, and I don't really have any bias against what product I buy. Just so happened that the Ryobi table saw was in the store when I went there, so that's what I got, and it fit my budget. The next thing is the ability to move this table saw around. It's not fixed. You get some of the big cabinet saws or the bigger table saws that they're fixed in place. Unless you put them on wheels, of course, you can move them around. But for someone like me who's working out of a 2-car garage, I need to be able to pick this up and put it in the corner away so I can get my cars in. That's something that's got going for it. Obviously, if I didn't have the stand, I'd have to be able to put it on a shelf or something like that, but the stand does remove very easily. So if you're going to use this very infrequently, you can easily take the stand off and put it away on a shelf somewhere. The next pro on this table saw is the safety. There's actually a con to this as well, but we'll touch on the pro first. And it's just this kind of safety device that sits on top over here, anti-kickback, and for someone who's not used a table saw before, feels like it's actually a little bit safer to use for me, and I have seen these working before. I never seen them work for me using this table saw, but I have seen videos of them, and it's a good thing to have. Obviously, you don't need to have that on there, but for me, I like that. I like my fingers. And the con to that is lack of zero clearance, or the distance between the blade and the insert here, this green insert. I found that a lot of pieces of wood, or thinner pieces of wood, actually get sucked in there and can be quite dangerous when they get spit back out. So something to consider is maybe getting a zero clearance for this table saw. I'm going to have a look online, see if there are any out there. People normally make them, get them on Etsy, or you can just make one yourself out of some 1/4-inch plywood or whatever the thickness of this is. But it's just something to consider or think about. Would I personally, knowing this information, buy another Ryobi table saw, or recommend anyone to buy a Ryobi table saw? No, I would not. I'd save up a little bit more money and get a better model, maybe go into DeWalt, or if it's all you can afford and you need a table saw, it will do the job. So in that sense, yes, I would recommend it, but also if you've got a little bit more money, just skip this saw and move on to something else.